Thank you. I just realized that I'm actually only woman in the stage today, except our moderator, so there's a little bit pressure for me talking to you all guys about artificial intelligence. And I'm not actually going to talk about technology today. And I'm going to a little bit challenge Tuukka as well about his perspective that everything can be automated. I'm not so sure about that one, but that's going to be the point of my presentation today. I'm talking about creating customer experience by using technology. And when we are talking about customer experience, we are actually talking about trust. And we are talking about emotions. And since I'm the only lady on the stage today, so I have to challenge you guys, all in the audience and also the other speakers, thinking about emotions. This sounds like a marriage counseling situation that you have to learn to talk to your wife, etc. Well, it's a kind of similar situation in a certain sense. So if you ever have been in that kind of situation, you might actually know what I'm talking about. But you have to understand the other people. That's the core thing. If you want to succeed in an effort trying to embrace technology in the customer experience. So that's the key thing. And as you can see from the picture there, thinking about customer experience, you have to cover all sorts of things which are not actually technology. The tech is a small part of the whole process in big picture. And first, I will handle the kind of angle situation here, since there's always two sides in everything. First of all, service providers like me, I'm actually representing both Kela and Finnish government here today, so I'm the only government official as well. A little bit challenging this too. And the thing is that the question to us is that how do we know what the customers actually really need? And what makes them choose? Well, in my case and in government's case, well, we have the monopoly on most of the services that we are providing, so there's not much to choose. If you want to avoid jail, for example, you have to pay your taxes. That's the case. But still, we are in the same business what comes to customer experience compared to the other private sector service providers. Since customers are rating their experiences based on the service what they get. And in that sense, we are in the same level, even though it might be that in some cases our services suck, but still the expectation might be something else what the customers are expecting. And of course, on the other side of the table, the customers are thinking that what do I really need? And what are the things what makes me to choose? How to choose? And especially we in governmental business, we consider that whenever we give the straight facts, we are on the safe side. But we forget that customers actually have feelings and they are basing their judgments on the feelings. I come to that a little bit later. And we are specialized in giving facts. All the ones who have been doing some kind of business with the government, you know that we give you laws and orders. And whenever we give some kind of legal information, we think that, okay, this is covered, we have given you the facts. Based on this and this law, you have to do this and this. And it doesn't go that way anymore. And it's been kind of difficult situation for us. And nowadays, especially when we talk about facts, we quite often actually think about what is the knowledge. And fact and knowledge is, they are not synonyms, but quite often they are used in similar manner. And the new god of artificial intelligence and human behavior, Yuval Noah Harari, most of you probably have read already his book or books, have kind of created a pattern how people have evolved in thinking about knowledge. And in medieval time, we believe that there's a God. Most of us still might think that way. And there were holy scripts which tell certain things, and then were logic. And since the holy script said that God has created everything and sun is shining, so of course God has created the sun, and that's it. Very clear, quite understandable. Then came the kind of science revolution phase, which we are actually still partially living. And then we started to make empirical data and gathering information in that sense, and we can count things. If you put something explosive in the tube and it explodes, you might consider that this is a kind of a fact and a knowledge that combining two things this way, it creates an explosion. Well, yeah, makes sense. Now we are shifting to the phase of humanism, which means that well, we know that there's an empirical data behind something, but it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And that's the core thing. And based on the feeling, we decide that whether we have a certain kind of knowledge or not. And since it doesn't feel right, our knowledge is that this might not be right. And based on that, we make our decisions. And that is something that we have to understand when we are experiencing the artificial intelligence, which actually in my case, I would like to say that it's augmented intelligence in that sense that it's not an artificial and it's not an intelligence. In that sense that what I understand, I'm actually social scientist by my education, so intelligence is actually something that we have, and it's based on all sorts of different things. And the artificial intelligence is actually augmenting our own intelligence. It doesn't have its own intelligence yet, at least. So there we are. We are feeling things, and we based on our decisions on the feelings. It means that we will be in deep shit. Sorry to say it so frankly, but that is the case, especially in governmental business, but it concerns every one of you as well. The thing is that 99% of every person's every decision is based on feelings. That is the case, even with you guys. Even if you are engineers, it still is the case. Sorry, your wives might have said that before and you haven't believed me. That's the case. Rachel Botsman, who has actually studied a lot of trust, and you have to read her book about how can we trust. So she said that when it was perhaps before the medieval time even, when we all people lived in a certain small village, we knew everybody, we were related and we married the guy next door, etc. The trust was based on the fact that you knew everything and you knew everybody around you. Then we started to travel, and we needed some institutional symbols to the trust. And this is, we as a government, we are really, really good in this. We have these laws and orders, like I mentioned, we have uniforms, we have brands. Brand is actually an institutional sign of trust as well, and that kind of stuff. And brands is something that the private sector companies also has, and the trust is based on the fact that it's a good company, it has a good value, it has a good brand, and that's why you trust it. It's like Coca-Cola and Nokia and Apple and Google, etc. You have to trust because it sounds quite steady and reliable. At least most of people think that way. And it worked for a while. It still works sometime. But what we are doing right now is that we are moving towards shared trust. You have all seen the examples of this kind of trust. It means that we are trusting actually other people's thumbs up signs in some services, for example. When you are choosing the place where you want to travel next, you might visit TripAdvisor or some other this kind of service. And you base your judgment on the experiences of other people. They may have given some judgment there, whether it's a good or bad. Most likely you don't know those persons at all. You might ask your friends or family or colleagues also that, have you visited there, what did you think about it? But still, we are trusting a judgment of people that we have never met. And last spring, actually, I was kind of curiously browsing in the internet, and I met two different examples of this kind of behavior, which caused an enormous trouble to the service provider. In both cases, there were involved dogs. Of course, you know that if you have a little puppy at home, you know that dogs are matter of heart. You even care, sometimes it might look like that you care more about your dog than your children even. Well, if that's the case, I don't judge you. But the first example, most of you might actually know the example. It was published in Helsingin Sanomat as well. In Hernesaari, there's a restaurant where there was a pitbull kind of a big dog with the employer in the area, which was closed. And then there was a small poodle walking with its owner there. And the pitbull harmed that little dog so that it died. Very, very dramatic, unfortunate happening. Very kind of a disturbing thing to do. What happened there? Of course, the lady who owned the small dog made the case public, and in Facebook or somewhere started to talk about the case, and she was sad and mad, of course. And people started to rate that the restaurant in TripAdvisor, they give poor ratings to the restaurant, which actually had nothing to do with the actual case. It happened in its area, it was closed. The person who worked there, that person should have been there, and he or she was there, but the others, no, they wasn't supposed to be there. It was a closed area, but still they were. And now people were thinking that, oh, it's a poor restaurant, let's give it 1 as a rating. So the rating actually drastically lowered from the previous one. And now when you choose your restaurant, you might not know this story, and you check the list of restaurants and you see the one, oh, it has a poor rating, I don't want to go there. And that rating was based on the things that has nothing to do actually with the service level or the food or atmosphere or anything. But you might trust the rating, what you see there. 1 point something doesn't sound too good. There's a 4 point something in a closer proximity, so I choose that one. So it means that you actually trust already something that you haven't heard. The other example was a case where this kind of quite old dog went to vet's office, and it has to be treated there. And what happened actually was that the dog, they couldn't treat him well, and eventually that dog died. And also the owner started to kind of tell about the experience in Facebook. So people, what they did was that they started to, oh, you poor thing, that was really sad, and I'm so sorry for you, and horrible thing what that vet did, and etc. And the company who owned that place, they put 1 person to answer those questions. She made an actually seemingly quite right kind of answer, very neutral, probably have talked about this matter with their lawyer as well, just in case if that goes to the court or something. Very neutral. Other than that, she, 1 little mistake made there. She told that there's always 2 sides in everything. You blame the customer, right? Other than that, it was a quite nice answer actually, and she couldn't give away the details because you can't if you have a service. You know, who you are dealing with customer service, you know that you don't give customers details out loud, even though you would like to save your ass in that situation. So what actually happened that people eventually they forgot about the dead dog. They started to get agitated about the response because she repeated the same response over and over again, every single complaint that there was. And it was like a machine. I'm still thinking that might have been a human. I don't know for sure, but the answer was like given like a machine. And that's an example of the kind of people don't trust that company probably anymore that much as they used to. And the other part is that if you don't emotionally touch those people you are talking to, you will be in trouble. It's not enough that you have the facts right. You have to emotionally touch the people. And that's why it's really kind of difficult to get the artificial intelligence to the customer service in that sense. You can collect the facts and data with the artificial intelligence, but it's still quite difficult to replicate the empathism and the human side in the human contact, and we humans are still having feelings, no matter what kind of technological inventions there are. So, how we shall tackle this situation then? During my career, I've been working with the IT quite many years already, and I've made some observations which I thought that I might share with you as well. First thing is that if you are not a service designer, hire one, because they are good with this kind of stuff. It means that you have to embrace the design thinking and design kind of a way of thinking your services. And you have to understand the customer needs. And those people have tools for that. Don't just rely on engineers. You need them as well, but don't just rely on engineers. You need service designers if you want to embrace technology in your customer service. It can be artificial intelligence or some other technology, it doesn't matter. The other part is the people who are in my age or a little bit over my age. So it means that it's around 50 or something. You have to understand social media. You have to understand the algorithm and how it works. You don't have to like it. I hate Facebook actually. I don't. I'm there, but I don't like it. But it doesn't mean that it's not important if you are not there. You can't dismiss it because everybody else is there. And nowadays, if somebody is giving a bad estimation of your service, it can be devastating if you don't understand how the system works there. So you have to understand that. You don't have to like it. Third part is that you have to understand the customer feelings. And if you are choosing to use chatbots or something like that, remember that the customers always have feelings when they are talking to the chatbot. So you can't think that as long as the chatbot gives the facts and what the artificial intelligence has been doing background, that's going to be enough. It's not. And the best examples of using actually technology in this sense are the chatbots who have been trained to use humor as a way of doing service. Decision making is another thing. As you all know, and probably some people have already talked here also about the fact that you have to speed up your decision making because the world is changing ever so faster. So you have to move faster yourself as well. What is valid now might be actually not so valid anymore in 3 months' time. Think big, but start small. The aim has to be high. And you have to learn to give away. If you have the power, consider how to do it so that you don't have to stick to the old system anymore. And you have to move away from your own corner. That's how the big players are doing in globally as well. Google is doing something else than just search engine nowadays. Finally, technology is never an answer. It's a kind of you have to, once again I claim you have to understand human behavior. If you remember something about my presentation today, it is that you have to remember thinking human feelings and human behavior. Remember that. And finally, as a kind of enlightenment for the rest of the presentation, this is the last slide, all leaders in digital world who are maybe age 40 or over, most likely you know a person called Douglas Adams. He has written a book which is a little bit more famous than the Salmon of a Doubt, but these quotes are from there. So this might feel a little bit difficult how to embrace the technology at this point of your career. Take it with a pinch of salt. Douglas Adams actually said that anything that is in the world when you are born is normal, and that's the way how things work. You know, it's pretty understandable. Anything that is invented between your 15 and maybe 35 or something, yeah, it's an exciting, revolutionary. And in good cases, like in my case, you might actually make a career out of it. I didn't think that I was talking about artificial intelligence at this point of my career when I was 15, but you know. And anything that has been invented after you are 35, that's just against the human nature. That's how things are. And that's why if it feels difficult, this is a kind of, remember this, that it's against the natural things, order of things, but you can still survive with it. I know that Harari actually added to this list, he added a fourth point, which is that, well, if nothing else helps, shit happens. But I didn't dare to put it on the writing, it sounded a little bit bad. Okay, thank you so very much. Have a lovely day.